We good?
Okay, everyone, it is live streaming now.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. I want to call this City Council work session of May 11th to order. At this point, was there any correspondence from the public or comment from the public, Jennifer?
I did receive an email today, which I believe I forwarded to everybody. It's from the Events and Marketing Committee for the Jamestown Renaissance Corporation. So I can read that into the record if you're ready.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Dear members of the Jamestown City Council, during a recent Zoom meeting with the Events and Marketing Committee for Jamestown Renaissance Corporation, we were discussing the ways in which businesses might adapt and be creative to survive. As business owners, we understand that pivoting often needs to be done quickly. It is possible to change quickly and still make calculated decisions that avoid any shortfalls of impulsivity. We are observing businesses in other parts of our state, country, and internationally who are pivoting. We appreciate their local jurisdictions allowing creative consideration and leniency to private enterprise, namely hotels and restaurants. That is the purpose of our letter. Our overall goal is permanent amendment to the city code. However, we urge the imperative temporary consideration in order for our businesses to survive. We are addressing two separate benefits to outdoor seating: expanded occupancy, financial reasons, and open air seating for health reasons. It is known that business as usual will have to change. COVID-19 has lasting impacts on every person. The worst thing that could happen to local businesses is for them to have to permanently close. From a financial perspective, restaurants need to fill their bars/dining rooms, especially the smaller restaurants downtown, in order to operate profitably and cover their fixed and variable costs. We are working off of the assumption that once we are allowed to open, we will be in the 50% occupancy category for the foreseeable future, allowing us to have outdoor seating, preferably more than what is currently allowed by the strict city codes, would allow us to maintain an occupancy that follows the rules and still allows for profitable operation. Codes we would like to be examined, and then in parentheses it says, and not limited to 245-11 permit, serving alcoholic beverage operation standards. We would like to have this code examined to allow restaurants that have the proper licenses to allow alcoholic beverages to guests in our outdoor areas. We understand that the New York State Liquor Authority allows for municipalities to decide some of the minutia. We are asking the city to help local restaurants communicate with the New York State Liquor Authority and expedite the process of any further requirements. We would like to examine all of the subsections of 245-11 and ask for leniency during these troubling times and loosening the restrictions and processes of acquiring a permit. One subsection we would like revised is 245-11J in reference to live or recorded music in outdoor areas. We would like to have the ability to play music in a non-intrusive way for our guests. In addition, we would like to allow downtown restaurants to play music/have live music outdoors in their permitted areas to entertain guests. Section 245-11, design standards. Every inch of real estate matters. We would like to come up with a streamlined and practical process for restaurants to use their space to include public space while also keeping in mind public safety, emergency vehicle parking and access, and public transient space. One example of a restriction that would need to be changed is 245-12B2, addressing the space requirements. It states we would need to have 5 feet of clearance from parking meters. Being that the parking meters are not in operation, that's a tremendous amount of space for local restaurants to use. Some other ideas that we have discussed. Number 1, closing down portions of streets with high density businesses to use the parking spaces and roadways. For example, 3rd Street between Washington and Main Street, in parentheses, even if for a certain day of the week/weekend. Number 2, the use of sidewalks all the way to the curb, allowing folks to walk/ride bikes in the shoulder. Perhaps the DPW could block off the shoulder so it could be used for this purpose. Number 3, blocking off the shoulder/roadside parking areas for seating, especially where sidewalks are narrow. New York State will most likely continue the requirement of employees to wear certain protective gear while serving guests. We will adapt and continue those safety precautions inside and outside our establishments. It is of greater benefit to one's health to be seated in an open air environment, especially for smaller, narrow restaurants like ours, We understand that we may be required to have disposable flatware in China to avoid contamination, and we will be certain to police our common areas and keep them clean and free of debris. We understand the planning that would have to go into some of these ideas, and we ask again for your leniency in the designing component of required site plans and also leniency in relaxing code requirements. We ask that you help support local businesses by allowing us the room to be creative, which allows us to adapt and overcome this terrible situation. Please keep in mind that these are new and challenging environments we have to work with, and it will require out-of-the-box thinking, which may conflict with current city mandates. We ask that you please move past any potential, it's always been done this way of thinking to allow for change. Respectfully and urgently submitted, Downtown Jamestown Restaurants. And then the attachment has a note that all of the following have verbally agreed but did not sign because of social distancing. We have Frank Bessie, co-owner of Labyrinth Press Company, Margaret Keltemeyer, owner of Forte Restaurant, Joe Town, owner Paces Pizzeria LLC, and committee member of JRC Events Committee, Diane Scott from Studio D Catering, Andrew and Amber Carlson, owners Chop House on Main. And that's
Thank
it.
you. Rather than getting a lengthy conversation, there's a lot of stuff there. I know there's a meeting scheduled tomorrow, I believe at 11 o'clock in the mayor's conference room with some of these members and some members of the council and staff, obviously, to go through and see what we can and might be able to do. I mean, obviously, there's some things in there that would require some major changes, some things that are probably not totally possible to do, but rather than get in a lengthy debate now, I think it would be best to have the meeting first, to go through some, kick around those ideas and talk with the staff. And then after that, come back to the council with some possible recommendations. That would be my recommendation at this point. I don't know if the mayor wants to chime in on that or anybody else.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best course of action. This would most likely result in a passing of some new local ordinances, some new local laws. So the process is a little bit more involved than just saying, hey, there's a resolution. But I think there's meetings scheduled in the next couple of days, as President Dulce, you'd mentioned, and we're hoping to try to hash out some of those things and put together something for the council to review.
Thank you. Is there any other correspondence?
And that was all I received.
Okay, thank you. At this point, then we'll move on to our committees. And Councilwoman Eklund, if you'd like to do the Finance Committee resolutions. Hello?
I was
Yep.
on mute.
Oh.
I'm here, sorry. First we have our for bonds, and the first one is for resolve that warrants be drawn and paid to the respective owners and paying agent to the sum of $20,400.00 in accordance with the bond requirements as follows. Various purpose bonds issue of February 15th, 2006, $20,000 principal and $400.00 for 6 months interest at 4% per annum on $20,000. This is just a note. This is a final pay on this bond. Joe, do you want to touch base on which bond that one is?
I can't recall the exact need for that bond, what it was issued for, but sort of a mortgage burning. This is the last payment on this particular issue, so it will be final.
Which is good news. And I know this is one we talked about when we went into the capital investment plan, that this was one of the bonds that was coming off too.
Correct.
The second bond is, I'm just going to read the second paragraph of that, which is a public improvement bonds refunding of the 2010 A bond issue of March 19th, 2019. $315,464 principal and $53,859.70 for 6 months interest at 5% per annum, $2,154,388. And again, as this states, this was a refinancing of a previous bond.
Just want to add, if you recall, because this is sort of fresh in my mind, because we we did this refunding early March of 2019. If you recall, the way this was structured, the interest rate sounds high at 5%, but if you recall, the way the underwriters structured this particular issue is that the previous issue, when we refunded this, we ended up paying back a lot less principal. But so the interest rate was higher, but we're paying much less principal, so our savings is considerable.
Correct. I do remember that. The third resolution is also another public improvement bond, and this is Public and Bond Series A, issue of June 1, 2011, $280,000 principal and $44,650.00 for 6 months interest at 4% per annum, or $2,200,000. Joe, anything you want to add on this one?
No, that one is being paid as scheduled.
Yep. Okay. The next item we have under finance also appears just as an FYI under, I believe, Public Works. This is that the mayor and Jeffrey Lehman, PE, Director of Public Works and Acting Director of Parks, Recreation and Conservation, be and they hereby are authorized and directed to purchase slurry seal surface treatment from Suit Coat, 57 Lister Street, Jamestown, New York, via the New York State OGS Micro Contract 315-523-188-PL, $263.12 per ton for application, $17 per ton for M&P, subject to the approval of Corporation Council as to. Jeff, anything you need to add?
Just a standard purchase we make every year. It's off the state OGS.
Yep. Okay. Then we have some items for discussion. As you recall, last week, the first item we had was the stop loss proposal for the period of 6/1/2020 through 5/31/2021. Joe, did you and Ryan get any questions or concerns from anybody?
No, I had no questions, but I will update you. We actually got we get a monthly report on what's called the high cost claimants report on our stop loss program. And just to give you an idea, again, I'm recommending we stay at the 175,000 deductible limit. And I'll kind of give you a reason why here. Currently, and we're almost at the end of our policy period. We're 11 of the 12 months through. We have 2 participants who are over $200,000 in claims. We have 1 participant who's 159,000 in claims, approaching the 175. So, if the city took on any additional risk by raising the deductible to one of the 2 options of 200 or 225,000, and with everything else being equal, as I mentioned, we average usually 2 to 2.5 participants, going over the deductible every year. So my recommendation from last week hasn't changed. I think we should go with the HM Life at the $175,000 deductible, and unless there's questions, we'll prepare a resolution to that effect.
I would agree. As a finance chair, I would agree with that. I'm not sure how Marie and Tony feel on that, but I'm pretty strongly agree with you on that one.
That's fine with me.
I would concur.
Okay, we'll prepare that resolution.
Unless somebody else on the council, unless somebody else from council has an issue, that is the recommendation from finance as well. Okay, the next item we have is the 2020 fee structure for the Parks and Recreation Department. The draft resolution and the backup was in your packets, and I will read it because we only briefly touched it. It's resolved that the 2020 fee structure for the Parks Department mowing private lots and abandoned properties to be charged to the property owner on record adopted as follows. Seasonal employee hourly labor charge is $45 and a parks employee hourly labor charge is $65. In addition, the hourly rate for the equipment used by the Parks Department will be based on the 2020 New York Department of Transportation equipment rate schedule and will be charged to the property owner on record. The property owner on record will be invoiced for each mowing charge, and if not paid by December 1st, 2020, it will be added to the 2021 property tax bill for the said owner. So again, we touched briefly on this with the increase due to just basic labor rate increases, and I don't think there was any concern or issues, but does anybody have anything with that?
No, I'm good with it.
Okay,
I-
and we're
I'm
good on
with
that.
And the procedure is typical of what's done in the past to add it to the property tax bill if people don't pay it. So we encourage people to mow their properties, and if they don't, they're going to get charged.
I would
Absolutely.
like to add that the current rate for a laborer is $25 per hour. So you actually, right now, we are encouraging people to really use our service because it might be cheaper than a regular mower. So having those updated amounts really discourages the use of it.
Exactly.
Correct.
Couldn't agree more. Mhm.
Other than that, I don't believe there's anything else to my knowledge coming out of finance.
Okay, any questions for Kim? If not, we'll move on to housing. Was there any housing discussion or needs to take place? I know there's no resolutions under that. Anything?
No, we don't have anything. I do have a couple of messages. I'm waiting for some callbacks to set up some meetings for our future work session. So I hope to have something soon.
Okay, thank you.
Just a reminder too, that I'm seeing and already hearing about people concerned about non-payment of rents from small landlords. And again, to repeat to individuals that they will be responsible for paying those rents, even though evictions cannot take place right now. But I think it's going to be extremely difficult, and we're going to see a lot of issues down the road from people who may not be getting their unemployment right now and having difficulty making rent payments. So just to be forewarned, I'm already hearing it, and hearing that people are looking to leave other places because they're getting evicted, even though it's illegal right now.
Right, and I think the governor extended no evictions through August.
He did.
Too.
Yes, he did, but it still doesn't mean that people aren't getting subtly harassed, or, you know, the fact that people aren't going to be able to make the payments if they can't make them now. Trying to make 3 months rent in 3 months is probably unlikely. So I think we're just going to need to be prepared that there may be a lot more problems in 3 months when people are facing that they can't pay the 3 months rent that's due.
Councilwoman Karuba?
Yes.
I will add just a couple things to that. This afternoon, we got an email from the State Attorney General. They have set up a hotline for anyone who is being unlawfully evicted from their property or being harassed by their landlord. The governor in his last executive order has also suspended late payments during this COVID period. So you will still have to pay your rent. However, he has directed that courts not assess late penalties for this period.
If you have that number, could you please provide it to us so that I know I have a couple of individuals who I could use that? But, you know, again, some of these things are, you know, not everybody follows all the rules in spite of the law and the rules. So the more information we can get out there to let people know, or know who they can call, because there are such limited services in a lot of places right now to help.
I will forward it to all the council members. Like I said, we just received it late this afternoon.
Okay, thank you.
You know, and along with that, is there a way that we can let the people know about this information, not only the hotline information, the eviction, but most importantly, that they'll still be responsible for paying their rent and mortgage payments after this August, deadline? I don't know if there's something maybe we can suggest the BPU to put it in their monthly newsletter, or we put it on our website. I know we all can, as we are approached about it, can verbalize it, but I was just trying to think of some other ways that we can get that message out to the people that you're still responsible for these bills come August 12th.
Councilwoman James, if you would like us to do a press release from the Housing Committee, we can prepare one for you guys.
Oh, thank you. That'd be good. But can have all that information in there. Thank
No
you.
problem. I'll work with Zach in our office to try to get that ready for you for review.
Great. Thank you.
Also, I guess there's one item that for people, again, experiencing difficulties now, including not just the housing, the United Way recently put out a newsletter or a fact sheet about all the different places where people can get help with food. And there is also a list of agencies that are available to help with some financial issues. So if that can be addressed as well to get that information out, it is from the United Way, but they have asked to have it distributed as far as and wide as we can. So I will send you the link, or send the link to provide to all the council members if they haven't received it already, but I think it can be helpful to people who are experiencing financial hardships right now.
That would be great if you could forward it. We'll make sure it gets up on our website under the COVID information as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's it. And I'm sorry to take up the time, but I thought
No,
you should
thank
get the
you.
information.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you. That's it from us.
Anything else for housing then? Seeing none, we'll go on to public safety, and Councilman Sheldon, do you have anything for public safety?
Yeah, one thing that I said at the end of last week's meeting was the Memorial Day parade has been canceled. I don't know if that's been out on social media or not. I know there was a small article in the paper, but just to reiterate that. But the committee will still be putting up the flags around Soldier Circle, and they are hopefully going to have some kind of small ceremony at that point, properly socially distanced, to honor the veterans on Memorial Day.
Brent,
Yep.
I spoke with someone right about that, who's the president of that, and they have no plan right now. It may just be that committee putting up flags, so I don't want the public to think they're going to be involved in that yet. It may just be there because of social distancing.
Right. Yeah, nothing formal at this point has been announced for any kind of ceremony.
Okay. Anything else?
Last week, we did have quite a long discussion about grants. EMS fire proposal, I believe she said he wanted a little more time for some research before we discuss that again. And is that correct, Grant? Do you want to wait till next meeting?
Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm just collecting some more.
Okay, good.
Keep planning out.
For our first work session in June, we can talk about that then.
The only thing I wanted to it's probably not a big deal, but for the chief and for the public safety committee, David was talking about creating some virtual races where people kind of register online and then do their activities and then upload that stuff. He just wanted to make sure, because it's going to be on a specific day, so there might be people out, or specific series of days. I don't think it is something that needs to go through the committee, but I wasn't sure, since people will be doing that on their own. But these are races that he wants to promote, and so I just want to make sure that so there's no need to like section off any roads or anything. It's whatever people do that day. But it is a competition, so I wasn't sure if there was something specific that the city needed to know about that, if it's going to be scheduled and promoted.
I would think there wouldn't be, because the only reason those go through public safety would be when road closures and barricades are put up. I would think, it's no different than people just going out for a run for various causes throughout.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that people knew he didn't want to do it the wrong way. So if you see it coming across your social media or in the paper, that's what's going on.
And I'm sure he'll probably remind everybody that, we don't want, a mass crowd of 50 people all running together for the same, they need both
Kind of
things.
defeats the purpose, yeah.
Yeah. Do it on their own individually, or if they do it in
Yeah.
small groups. I know there's groups that do go out and have morning runs together just to be mindful of the.
Okay, so we seem to be good there. That's good.
Okay. Anything
Well,
else?
I just have an FYI, the Juneteenth festival will be canceled this year. So we will not be having it this year.
Thank you. There was an item listed here, something about changing the language of the city's code of ethics, but there was nothing attached in the packet, and I don't know if that's something that Elliot's been working on. Or Eddie, if you come here, if you see
Yeah,
something.
so- Yep, I'll jump in there.
Okay.
This was inspired by all employees when they come to work for the city or interns when they come to volunteer for the city, sign our code of ethics, which is pretty formulaic, and I can send a copy of that around council. I was looking at it the other day because of just recent personnel changes, and it was written in the masculine sense. So everything was him, his, or he, as far as all the pronouns. And obviously we have quite a few ladies that work for the city government. So I sent it back to Jen, said, can we change it? And it's part of the city code. So there would need to be a formal process to go with that. I'm not.
Cut out there.
Changes to the code unless someone wanted to review, and I'll send that around. I was just proposing a pronoun to them, they, and their to include both genders.
So it's just language cleanup. It has nothing changes in it.
Yes. No.
Yeah, thank you, because I think that is the accurate or the more preferred now is they and their. The BPU just went through that process and changed all of their documents to show they and their. So yeah, that's appropriate. Thank you.
I do want to add to that if there are other sections of the code that folks are seeing that, this is a great opportunity for us to do this as kind of one cleanup opportunity. So if you do start to see those things as council members, and we will be going through taking a look at it as well. But as Mr. Armando pointed out, he was looking at it, he recognized the need to potentially make a few cleanups. But if you see other policies or other things that have that opportunity, we'll be looking for them, but we are also asking for the council's help to identify those as well, to really make sure that we have the correct and accurate language.
Okay. Anything else for that, or anything else in public safety?
I don't have anything else.
Okay. Then we'll move on to Public Works. Councilman Nelson, if you'd like to.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. We had the same resolution as finance, the purchase from Sudcoat, and it was a standard purchase that we've done every year. So, and the other thing that we had, I know Jeff received the investment grade energy audit from Stark ESCO, and it's the first phase of our energy assessment project. And I see Todd Hansen is here. And I don't know, Jeff, if this is a good time to do that presentation, if that's what you were planning.
Great time. We got Todd Hansen and Scott Derby who put the project together.
Okay.
I guess I can turn it over to you guys. Todd, your speaker's off.
Oh, it's Scott. We're in the same room here in our Falconer office, but Todd's at one end of the table, 6 feet away, and I'm at the other. So we're using two laptops. So we're trying to go back and forth here, but thank you very much for the intro. And what I want to do is just spend a couple minutes recapping the report. And Todd then is going to go through some of the highlights of the report and some of the specific measures. So as you may remember, the city issued a request for proposal on March 4th. We had submitted a response on March 20th. We received approval to go forward with the certified energy assessment April 7th. And then, of course, we just submitted the final report, which is called a certified energy assessment, on the 8th. So that was the process, and we briefly discussed that back in March with the city council. So our report, I'm very happy to say, we find that there's a potential of 27% across the board utility energy reduction possible for the city of Jamestown's buildings. There's several measures, and it's going to be up to Jeff and the team, and the council, to decide how they want, what measures they want. But on average, it's about a 27% reduction. So what we did though, since March, since the RFP, we spent literally a couple hundred hours, myself and Todd Hansen and our team of energy engineers going through the buildings. City Hall was a big one, but we went through the police department, the fire station in City Hall. We went through all the other fire stations, the parks department, stadiums, looking at heating, cooling, anything that uses energy. Lighting was a big deal. Inside, outside lighting, water, wastewater. We looked at everything, how it's being used, and try to find ways to reduce that the cost and the usage, of course. So the project or the assessment was submitted. I guess, Jeff, did you send a copy to the council?
It was sent out Friday afternoon.
Oh, great. Okay. There's a lot of data in there, and Todd's going to go through some of the specifics, and then we're going to, of course, be available here to answer any questions you have. So I'm going to turn it over to Todd. I'm going to mute too.
Hello.
Okay.
Can you get this down? Going down through the list of the ECMs, the energy conservation measures, obviously the one that was the most important that kind of started this whole process out was the fact that district cooling is going away in September, October this year. So City Hall is in need of a cooling plant to be installed. And with that, I'm talking with Jeff and Todd Profiter, going down through all of these different energy measures, the boiler upgrades, the boilers that are in City Hall are the original boilers that were there when the building was built. One of them is non-functional, and the other one is functional, but only on a manual basis. The new boiler plant would have 3 boilers, so there's some redundancy, being that City Hall is a critical building. Same with the cooling plant. The cooling plant would have 3 chiller modules that would cool City Hall. Again, there's some redundancy there. We went through the penthouse air handling unit, which feeds the majority of the building. Control valve upgrades, control programming upgrades, the court air handling system, police and fire department fan coiler replacements, the parks department heating, 145 and 155 steel. We looked at the control valves, the pipe insulation, and also installing boiler plants there. And then the City Hall, all the lighting upgrades, City Hall, fire companies, the DPW on 145, 155, Parks Department, and Dietrich Park. Lighting upgrades, interior and exterior, all to LED. One note too is that the City Hall lighting upgrade line item also has a color changing DMX controlled accent lighting for the exterior of City Hall. Jeff and Todd were part of the demonstration that we put on back a few months ago. Basically, there would be 32 lights all the way around City Hall that are color changing and programmable. For the most part, every single measure in here, we've basically done the engineering. I mean, we've picked equipment, gotten hard costs on it, and done the calculations based on that equipment. So, and we've included in the investment grade audit that you have a copy of. It shows all of the utility bills, district cooling, district heating versus the new plants that we would put in, and also some operation and maintenance savings for things that are on an ongoing basis or already planned to be done. Other than that, I'm not sure, probably Jeff, if there's anything that you want to add or if there's any questions.
It was quite an undertaking. These guys, like they said, they went through it with a fine tooth comb. And there's been a lot of back and forth, trying to meet our wishes, I guess. So these, take my hats off. They've worked well with us.
Does the council or mayor, does anybody have any specific questions about any of the items that are in the report? I know it's a lot of information to digest all at once.
Yeah, it's a very thorough report. It's over 100 pages and I've been going through it. Maybe could you just talk about the savings that this will hopefully bring the city?
Yeah. So on the one sheet, I believe it's on page 4, basically shows the operation and maintenance savings and also the energy savings. So the total savings for both of those, if you did all the measures, is almost $78,000 a year, most of which is energy, which is $69,000 a year. So that's gas and electric.
It's pretty significant. What's the next step then? What would be the next step?
The next step, one of the things that we've been up against and reason that we've been trying to do this in as expedient fashion as possible is the fact that the chilling for district cooling is going away this fall. So ideally, the game plan would be to run, the next step would be obviously for the city council to take whatever recommendations that Jeff and his team put together as far as which items out of that list of 23 that they want to do, but have the council and the mayor approve that and then move on to a contract. We do have some final engineering that we'd have to do next. But in the meantime, if you were doing the chiller plant or the boiler plant, like say in City Hall, some of that work can start almost immediately. With the chiller plant, there's some exterior work that has to be done, interior work that has to be done, concrete to be poured, those types of things that all can take place right out of the gate. Ideally, if we got started with the final engineering, the beginning of June, we got a contract in June, we would have equipment, the major equipment, probably in September, and hopefully get the chiller plant, boiler plants installed if you pick those ECMs, by late fall, hoping that the whole project would be done by December 31st. And we do the final commissioning and training sometime after the first of the year.
Okay.
See, it's a pretty tight schedule, even though we're sitting here in May talking about next year's cooling, but every step of this process takes time. So like Todd said, staff will be looking at this, coming back with a recommendation to the council as far as, and working with Joe also, as far as the costs, what we feel we can.
Okay. We'll have a recommendation in the June work session, or?
I'd like to have a recommendation this week or early next week.
Okay.
At least to get it out in front of you, and you can ask questions if you have concerns or what have you. We can move, trying to move forward.
And
Yeah, the fact of the matter is, if we don't do anything, there'll be no air conditioning in that building next year, correct?
That is true.
And that's a factor in terms of the rental space that we have there. It would make it very uncomfortable for those floors that are the 4th and 5th floors.
It's actually a factor of my offices.
I wasn't thinking of your office.
I'm so worried about you, Jeff.
I was thinking of the rented space that we might have problems with the tenants who don't have air conditioning because those windows don't open either.
Yeah, Actually, the court would be the first one that would be sent home because the state law regulates what the temperature can be, and without cooling, courtroom has the worst ventilation system as part of the city hall. So that would be the council chambers, and the court would be probably the first ones that would be.
It gets over 76,
Yeah.
they're done.
Yeah, that's all the more reason that we have to do it. You know, we do
Mhm.
have a contract with them, so.
Yeah, that's all we have from Public Works. And again, I just want to thank Todd and Scott for coming here tonight. And it's, it's a very thorough report. And we'll look forward to the recommendation from Jeff and the staff.
Okay, very good. Any other questions?
Thank
for
you.
Public Works? If not, before we move on to remarks by the mayor, is there any other business to come to the council? New, old? I just wanted to, I don't know if this is the time to discuss it, but next week's voting session, how are we planning on doing that? Are we sticking to Zoom? I know the mayor talked about possibly going live. I don't know what the plan is, if anything's changed, or should we stick to Zoom for this point, at this point?
President Dulce, so the governor did extend the executive order allowing virtual meetings till June 6th.
Okay,
So we are fully covered. By the time we have the next voting session, it's not anticipated that we as a region will be open. So it probably there's still a prohibition for any type of public hearings or live meetings.
so for this
Zoom
okay, so we'll then plan on Zooming for our voting session. I certainly hope that by our June voting session, at least we can get back together again in late June. Let's keep our fingers crossed for that. So, and again, we'll take it 1 week at a time to see how it goes. It extended to what, June 6th, I believe?
The ability to do virtual meetings is extended to June 6th at this point.
So that would really come close. Let's see, when's our first? So that would include our first work session as well in June, at least our first work session. Because I believe it's June.
That would be the 8th, if it's the 8th.
Is it the 8th?
The 8th, the first, June 1st is a Monday, June 8th, the 15th, 22nd, and 29th.
So we don't meet till the 8th then, right?
Right.
But there's 5 Mondays.
Okay, so, wow, we get a couple of weeks off after next week. So, well, we'll play it by ear. I mean, I would love to get back to City Hall and have our normal meetings and have, but let's just play it obviously, at least for next week. And then we'll kind of play it by ear and see what happens as we pass Memorial Day and get into June. So, okay, with that, we'll go on to the mayor.
Great. I have for you all today 3 items for executive session, one which will be a potential litigation, 1 public safety, 1 personnel, and I have 3 items just for your general work session today for the public. The first one that I just want to address briefly is the city is working with some local individuals on a scavenger hunt for kids. I want to allow Zach Altschuler from my office to talk a bit about it. But before I do that, I do want to thank Councilwoman Eklund for helping this come to fruition and her support of it. So I'll allow Zach just to tell you guys a little bit about what this scavenger hunt is going to look like. As long as he unmutes himself. There you go.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Councilwoman Eklund, for helping facilitate this as well. So there's going to be a contest that's going to be starting later this week on Thursday. It's Harry the Hygiene Hound, a local resident has put this together. She contacted over 50 businesses, schools, and churches who will be participating. She got thousands of dollars in donations from local restaurants, from gift cards to hand out to participants of this contest. Essentially, kids who are residents of Chautauqua County can look for Harry the Hygiene Hound, which is just a little mascot that they created. Will be on businesses, schools, drive-throughs, billboards, movie theaters, banks, and churches. Essentially, all can be seen from the car, so kids don't have to go outside to see it, and it's just something to do when they're out with their parents. When they find 50 of them, they can email in and tell the locations, and then they can receive a prize. The grand prize winner will receive a plush stuffed Harry the Hygiene Hound stuffed animal and $200 in local drive-through restaurant gift cards, as well as getting their photograph taken with the mayor and Mayor Holcomb of Lakewood. So again, these are all in the Jamestown Lakewood area. So if you know anyone, kids 14 and under can enter. There'll be 10 prizes, and the first 10 will receive those prizes. So we're excited to be supporting this contest, and it's a good way to get kids out and looking out at stuff during this tough time.
I just want to add, she has a very detailed Facebook social media page outlining all the donations, all the supporters, including the city of Jamestown. And I think it's a great way to get kids and to find something fun to do in this time with social distancing. So please feel free, for those of you that are on social media, to look it up. It is Harry the Hygiene Hound. Those you have to look for is that, and you'll see the page and the event on there.
Okay.
Great. Wonderful. So we will also send that link around tomorrow so that you all have that and you can take a look at it and send it to your constituents. The second item that I have for folks is really the assistance of the council. We have 2 open board and commission spots. One for the Board of Assessment, which will actually be starting later this month. So we are looking to fill that right away, and a spot for the Parks Commission. Those still remain unfilled, but if any council member has recommendations for individuals to be appointed to that, please send them along my way. The third thing that I just wanted to talk to you all about was the city's plan for reopening, as well as the governor's reopening plan. Earlier today, I sent you all what was called the Forward New York plan from Governor Cuomo. First off, in the city, we are finalizing a draft plan for reopening of our public spaces for city offices, as well as controls for disinfecting areas, ensuring the safety and well-being of our employees and of any member of the public that comes into City Hall or city building to do business. We will have a draft for the council most likely this week, if not this week, then the beginning of next week. This will be a draft until we have some more finalized information from the governor's office, but we wanted to be proactive in doing so to make sure that we are ready to open whenever we have been given the go-ahead to do so. The second part of that is I've been asked by the governor's office to be part of what's called the Regional Control Room. So that is the governor's advisory board or working group to open up Western New York. So the city of Jamestown has a seat at the table for opening up our region. As I stated last time in our work session, we are opening up as one Western New York region. And I wanted to just share some information with you all today from our first working group meeting. I'll tell you, the first meeting we had was actually on Mother's Day, which was a whole lot of fun to kind of step away and start to meet with the rest of this group. And then we were meeting every day since. There is a plan called the New York Forward plan from the governor's office. Every region has to meet a series of 7 metrics in order to be considered for opening. At this point, 3 regions have met those metrics and will most likely open up phase 1 starting on May 15th. At this point, Western New York has only met 5 of the 7 metrics. We still have not met the one metric that requires a 14-day decrease in hospitalization rates and a 14-day decrease in death rates. Those two metrics have still not been met. We are hoping in the next few weeks that we are able to meet those and start to open up the rest of Western New York. I do want to point out the governor today and indicated that the opening is going to happen in 4 different phases. Phase 1, which would be the reopening, would allow any type of construction, manufacturing, curbside only retail, and agriculture and fishing components. I will also note that on May 15th, statewide, so this is every single region, the governor is going to allow landscaping and gardening to operate as long as there is appropriate social distancing. Outdoor low-risk activities such as tennis, so entertainment activities, and drive-in movie theaters, which unfortunately we no longer have here in the city of Jamestown. But those things will open up statewide on May 15th, regardless of region. For our region, we've created this working group, which is made up of people from all the different counties. And more importantly, they're there really to determine if there's anything that needs to be adjusted or changed as we start the opening up process, and really problem solve, figure out where things are at and which areas or which types of businesses may need to open up before others. So we are in the process of trying to figure that out. We're trying to determine when we're going to open up here as a region. We still need to get those final metrics taken care of before we open up. I do want to encourage folks, though, there is going to be a public dashboard to see how we are doing as a Western New York, as well as every other region. It's going to be on the governor's website. It's forward.ny.gov. Other than that, as I have more information, I will share it with the council. But I am excited that Jamestown is going to be represented, that we have a seat at the table, and more importantly, that we're working actively with all the rest of our partners in the Western New York region to go ahead and open up Jamestown and the rest of Western New York. It is both PJ Wendell, County Executive Wendell, and I are the only 2 from Chautauqua County serving on this board. So we're excited for that. And as soon as I have more information, I will definitely let you all know. Just as a reminder for the phases, as you start to look at them or as the public starts to look at them, our office will be communicating what those opening phases are going to look like. But more importantly, this week, the governor's office will be putting out a sector by sector guides for opening up each of those types of business sectors. There's also going to be a template that businesses will need to self-certify that they've read their sector guide and have taken appropriate action. So many have thought that we were going to have to submit plans to the state in order to open. That'll not be the case. It'll be a self-certification for businesses based on each phase of that opening. So other than that, like I said, once I have more information, I'll make sure to let the council know. We are still not there yet for a May 15th opening, but we are hopeful in the next few weeks that we can start to open up Jamestown and the rest of Chautauqua County.
I have a question because I'm getting calls about permits. People are wanting to do some outside projects in their homes that involve permits. So after May 15th, that still will not be allowed. I have a few people that I want to put fences up. They want to, and so I know right now they're not allowed to. And so will that be included on the May 15th, or that still will not be something that is not available?
Well, the reason that we suspended the permits is because we would then have to send out code enforcement officers to those locations to inspect. So that was obviously a concern of ours to be sending those folks out. There is nothing preventing someone from putting up the structures or making changes to their home now, but obviously if they do have a fence or things like that, they need to get a permit for inspection. I know many of those individuals have actually just called our Department of Development office so that they've kind of registered with them to let them know that those things are there. But we've not yet made a decision on whether we're going to open that part up on May 15th. And I'll see if Crystal wants to add anything to that. She can unmute. There we go.
I don't know that I really have much to add other than Larry Scalise has been constantly in contact with people who are looking to do, garages, fences, you name it. So he's trying to be as proactive as he can, getting those permit applications out to everyone and letting them know that, as soon as we have the go ahead, that they will be okay to get back in touch with us and get those permits filed, and he'll get them out as rapidly as he can. So holding pat, but we're trying to be as proactive as we can. So if you do hear that from anyone, just send them our way, give them our number, and let them know that we can at least get the paperwork part of it started, and we'll get them out as rapidly as we can.
Okay, so they would need to still do their paperwork for building the fence.
Yes.
Okay, so,
Yeah,
so they have to still get the paperwork for the fence. Okay. I've been telling them.
What about in emergency situations if someone has an emergency at their house, say with their roof or something that would require a permit? What's the process of that?
So that would be the same. Contact our office. Larry will evaluate if it's an emergency, and will work with the property owner to get them the appropriate emergency permit. So emergencies are handled a bit differently than just the normal, home improvement type of permit. So.
Right. Okay.
I don't believe we denied any emergency permits at this point.
We've had a couple. And we're trying as best we can to avoid sending Larry into an inspection situation where he has to enter someone's property and potentially expose himself and or that property owner. So we've done a lot with photos. If they send us a photo of it and it's a very clear emergency. I think there was one situation where that was the case with a roof. And in that case, I believe they didn't do a full roof replacement. It was patch it and repair it to keep it from being damaged further. And then the full roof replacement could come when we're ready. We're back open. So.
Crystal?
Mm-hmm.
I was informed something totally different from Larry in my conversations and email from him. He stated to me that there were not mailing permits out, and I was to tell people and who had called me to tell them to call when you opened. So that created a little frustration for a couple constituents, because in particular has a shed that they ordered before and want to get it placed, and he told them no, not even to fill out paperwork. So what is the actual ruling, what to tell them? And if you want us to have them call DOD, who are we calling? Are we calling the general number? Can you state that clearly for us? Because I know for sure I was told something totally different than you just said from.
Okay, well, I will follow up with Larry on specifically what he has indicated to people, but we're not. So to clarify, we are not issuing permits at this time. However, he is sending permit applications to people via email so they can get that filled out.
He didn't even offer to do that for me. So I would like to get that taken care of.
Sure. Yep. And if you would like, you can have them contact me directly. Do you want my number, Kim?
Sure.
483.
I do have. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm happy to share it. So I'm happy to do that. 483-7659, and that is my direct line. So calling the office number will get you to an answering service that does get checked every day, periodically throughout the day, but to get me directly.
Well, I didn't even tell them to call because I was told not to. So I don't think upset to call the office. I just feel like I'm told people wrong And now I look into it.
Well, I had, the lady I was talking about, I had given her the call, the office, and she was told also that they were not even, doing or anything like that. And that if she wanted, when all this was over with, if she wanted to contact the office again, that they would, be happy to give her a permit, so.
Crystal, are they stopping work on permits that were issued before this for work that was authorized or no? People
They've
had
been
permits before.
So the state, in their initial rollout, had indicated that if work was being done, but it didn't fall under the criteria as essential work, and that's on their listed on their website, that work would need to stop immediately, or when it got to a point in the work where it was safe to do so. So only essential, which is, as deemed by the state to be essential, or emergency work would be allowed to continue.
Thank you.
So, Crystal, what's this number? You don't want your number out to people, correct? Is that number just for us, for our use, or?
Well, I think we're live streamed. I do not, my number is published. It's
out.
People contacting me directly.
Okay.
Eddie, I just have a quick question for you. As you work with this Western New York Council, I listened a little bit to the press conference, and the request was, we're getting state data, but we're not necessarily getting regional data. And so when you talk about these metrics and the fact that we've met 5 out of 7, when you look at how big our region is, it may not be, even though it's in Western New York region, will we actually kind of know what part of the region may need to, work on some things? Since 14 days doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot. So if we go 2 days and we're doing well, and then we go 8 days and we're doing well, and then all of a sudden the 9th day something happens. Is there a way that that's going to be made public on a regular basis, or is that just something, you know what I mean? I mean, if people
think that
are doing their thing, but people in Niagara County aren't.
It doesn't matter whereabouts it is. I think that's the frustration that many people are feeling, is that, it doesn't really matter whether it's here in Jamestown or whether it's in Dunkirk or Fredonia or Buffalo. We're all part of one section, and he's not going to split it up. And so we're pretty much at the mercy of the whole section has to show this trend regardless of where it actually is. And we're just,
I just figured, because they're collecting like zip code data and stuff like that. And so, something that needs to happen in a certain part of the region that needs to be looked at a little bit more closely than other parts. I guess I was just wondering.
I can answer that.
Held captive to situation. I'm guessing. I'm just wondering.
I can answer that for you. So there's a couple things. Number one, as a region, you will be able to see kind of live how we are doing in terms of the metrics on the governor's website. What you're asking in particular is that's going to be an aggregate data from the hospitals in all of the counties in that region that they're going to pull in order to make that metrics. I will actually say that from what I have seen personally, having the entire region actually helps us. As a county, we are way behind. We're probably one of the lowest ranked on testing. So unless we were to ramp that up tremendously, we would not qualify necessarily as a county of meeting all of the metrics. There are some metrics that we have met, such as contact tracers and death rates and hospitalizations, but we would still not be there. In this case, since Erie County has provided testing essentially to everyone, that it's actually boosted our number and allowed us to meet that metric.
Okay.
So in this case, it actually helps us as one region to open up. The two areas that we still need to work on are really just the decline in hospitalizations and the decline in death. We've not seen the 14 days, although we have seen a decline. So we're still waiting just to get past that 14-day period for it.
Is that 14 days starting on the 15th, or is that just 14 days in a row whenever we can start to, record?
The state does a 3-day rolling average of those rates, and that's how
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions from the council?
Okay.
I just had one comment and one question. The comment is, I know some people I've spoken to are getting confused with the Western New York region compared to the Southern Tier. People hear the word Southern Tier and they automatically think of Chautauqua County. And I know there was some stuff going around earlier today where people thought that we already had met the metrics because they didn't realize what our area is. And as far as the question, I was just wondering, with more testing going on and specifically antibody, does that antibody testing at all play into any of the factors of the reopening, or is it because it's not, in other words, they're not considering that a new case if someone is testing positive for antibodies and has since recovered, maybe they didn't even know they had it because they're saying that many people are asymptomatic. Someone goes and gets a test and realizes, wow, I had it and I wasn't even sick. Is that playing a factor in any of the numbers?
I will double check for you on the antibody testing. From my understanding, or for what I have been told, is that we're looking at just testing for active cases. But I will double check on that and make sure I follow up with you, Councilman Russell.
Thank you.
And just to address your point about the region, so the Southern Tier is going to be anything that's past Allegheny County. So most of that is in relation to hospital systems and where hospital systems are. The Southern Tier past Allegheny County has a very kind of cohesive hospital system going down that entire corridor, where we are more connected to hospitals in Pennsylvania with the UPMC system, as well as hospitals in Erie County. So there's some of that basis is A, economic, but B, also based on some of the hospital systems that we have here.
Okay. Is there anything else before we go to executive session?
That's all I have.
Okay. Seeing no other business, we do, as you said, we have 3 items for executive session, one under public safety, one under personnel, and one under litigation. Before we take a vote to go into executive session, I just wanted to make sure, I know there has been some concerns, not only with us, but with other entities that go into Zoom executive, visual executive sessions, that just make sure that we are all visible, that we are alone in the room that we are currently in. And that just a reminder that if anyone has someone that enters the room, you need to at least make the others aware that you're no longer alone in your room. So I just wanted to get that out there to make sure that everybody feels comfortable, because it's a little difficult when we're all in different spots to make sure that the confidentiality in the executive session is kept. So with that, do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So
I didn't see who did it, but
Councilwoman Karuba.
all right, Councilwoman Karuba, seconded by
Second.
Eklund.
Councilwoman James. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are in executive session, and I'll give the mayor time to turn the live streaming off, as well as excuse any of the members of the staff that are not necessary.
Could I just keep, please, Chief Snellings, Joe Bolito, and Ryan Thompson, and Elliot Raimondo would be great, please. And then I will go ahead and stop the recordings.